Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Asha Krishnan, and I'm here to share my truth through my story. This story is very close to my heart. It's breast cancer. The story actually, before I start on my story, are you aware that the statistics for breast cancer among urban Indian women is quite alarming? 30%. To put it simply, if you're a bunch of women sitting here, look to your right, look to your left, and if it's not them, it's you. That's how cancer is actually spreading. At some point or the other, when you go to test, it could be discovered. So, my story started in 2002, when because of a business venture, I was introduced to the world of nutrients, to the world of concentrated nutrients in dedicated quantities. In 2002, I did a course and got certified to understand, simply to understand what these products were all about. In 2003, I was introduced to this book by a doctor friend of mine from Australia. Little did I know that one day, 10 years later, this book would serve me in good stead. Having gone through that book, and mind you, I'm an art student in school, never fancied science. Having gone through that book, I decided to experiment on myself. In 2004, I followed the guidance that doctor, this book is by a doctor, Dr. Ray Strand. He's a living legend in the science of nutrition. I practiced it on myself, and from the age of 8 to the age of 44, I was suffering from asthma. It was gone. 4 months in dedicated quantities of nutrients. It was still surprising. In 2005, my older daughter, who had left home for college, was in hostel in Bangalore, came down with non-alcoholic fatty liver. She was diagnosed. As a parent, I'd rather think it's non-alcoholic. So, again, liver medications have serious side effects. And I have this most precious person who's a doctor in the family, my brother-in-law. He refused to give her medications and he said, see what you can do. I said, okay, give me a few months. I asked him for 3, but in 1.5 months, pumping her with certain dedicated quantities of nutrients, she was playing football again. In 2008, I became an empty nester. We became an empty nester, my husband and I. My children had left. So I decided to go and investigate the corporate world. I left for the Middle East. I continued to take these nutrients, to which the world to which I was introduced to was so compelling, so believable. The stories in this book are authentic. The science behind nutrition is actually there in reputed medical journals, double-blind, placebo-controlled, scientifically proven, but also reported in all the journals. But unfortunately, they don't see much. They don't get highlighted for obvious reasons. So I kept taking these nutrients, and in 2010, my corporate life went off beautifully, was going from strength to strength. And in 2010, in a casual self-examination, I would strongly suggest that women learn how to do self-examination. It will come in very handy. I discovered this lump in my breast. I told only my sister-in-law. I didn't tell anyone else because I know the hoo-ha people would create. But having had some idea of what certain nutrients can do for me, I kept requesting. The Middle East is not a place where I could access these nutrients easily. So I kept asking my husband and he would send it over, and I kept taking Life went on. 2010, 2011, 2012, I was transferred as country head of operations for my company to Singapore. I took this elevation and transfer, promotional transfer, and I moved to Singapore. In 2013, I came down from Singapore for an annual leave. And my second daughter had actually been, there was no concrete diagnosis, but she was suffering from these scary, horrible headaches and blackouts, unidentified headaches. This is not what a mother wants to see. I left my job. I came back to India and I took care of her. I had asked her, she had reached a stage where her headaches actually controlled her. The onset of the headache would bring so much of fear and anxiety. I need to eat something. This headache is going to, kind of consume me. I said, this is not going to be. And I pumped her with nutrients again. Maybe it took about a month and a half or 2 months. She was driving from Cochin to Bangalore while I slept in the car. And then it was my turn. I went in for a casual executive checkup and I told the doctor there, please, I'd like to do a mammogram as I have an unattended breast lump which I've been nursing for, by then, 3+ years. The doctor asked me, how long have you had it? I said, that's the time. And he was okay. He was a little, I could see the alarm on his face. I took the reports very casually and went to my dear brother-in-law. He looked at it and said, you have a lump? How long have you had it? I said, 3 years. You're going to get admitted today, now, today. I said, but I'm okay. Nothing's wrong with me. He said, now. I said, okay, get admitted. Then started the saga of lumpectomy, sent for biopsy. Results came about 10 days later. Malignancy. The funny part was, this malignancy was confined to 0.5 centimeters. That's half a centimeter, 5 mm. The 6 centimeters that they'd removed, the surrounding tissues were active. There was no decay. To a layperson's, I'm not a medical person, but to a layperson's logic, to my logic it was, if something was spreading, there surely should be decay in the surrounding tissues. But if it was not spreading, instead was regressing, retreating, the surrounding tissues would be active. I like to believe that was what was happening. Now I wish I had kept it for 1 more year, probably there would have been nothing there. And then, but as luck would have it, and as providence would guide, I went in for yet another surgery. Why? The option was, should chemotherapy be done or not? Fortunately, for this wonderful brother-in-law of mine, one statement he made, if it was for my wife, I wouldn't do chemo. I wouldn't suggest chemo. Otherwise, familial pressure, of course, doctors see the worst in any disease. They get to see so much misery that they don't want to take chances, especially if they're your friends, they're known to you, they definitely won't take chances. I was lucky in that. I didn't need that chemotherapy because it was grade 1, 0.5 centimeters after 3. But medical science probably would be doubting, yeah, it is slow growing cancer. That's what they would say. But that's not what I've understood. And that's not what this doctor has told. That's not what this doctor has advised, and that's not his experience. And he is an allopathic MD who threw his life 7 years into the discovery of nutritional science. Why? Because he almost lost his wife. He almost lost his wife to fibromyalgia. That is extreme fatigue. Chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS, that's what fibromyalgia is. Then what happened? There's always the suspicion. See, if you have been nursing a malignancy in your body for over 3 years, chances are there are rogue cells. The rogue cells would escape into your lymph nodes or into your bone marrow. These are the highly likely chances. So again, it's always that villain, that rogue has to be found. So once again it was surgery. Let's check out the lymph nodes, send for biopsy. Drew a blank. Okay, let's do the bone marrow scan. So they inject some radioactive stuff into you and you feel like ET, and all the scan is done. All that drew a blank. And then again, the next step happens is the sequences, prevention. Okay, we didn't find anything, you seem fine, but what if? This what if is something which puts a lot of pressure on the family. What if it recurs 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years? What if it recurs? My children weren't married at that time. And I remember the statement, what if it comes back? And what if you can't play with my children? This is exactly what my daughter told me. I said, okay, I didn't want to do radiation. It wasn't required. But I gave in. We did that. 1 month, 24 cycles, if I'm not mistaken, of radiation. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday, you get a reprieve to recoup. And it's not easy. It's intense heat. It's the kind of heat that probably, laser beams can cut through steel. So you can imagine the kind of intense radiation. When I went to my radio oncologist, when he evaluated me, he asked me, what else are you doing? I said, I take nutrient supplements. And he said, no, you're not going to take that during my protocol. I said, why? Because it interferes with my protocol. Okay, doctor, tell me what vitamin, mineral, what interferes with your protocol? And I'll change that. Mind you, I am paying for someone to do things with my body, and I need to have a say. I need to be proactive about my health. So the question, and I didn't get a satisfactory answer. So we went through with the radiation and I went through with my supplementation. I, in fact, increased my doses. I did so many things. I did a bit of research myself. And I came out with flying colors. At the end of the session, the doctor actually asked me, are you some kind of superwoman? Because I had no side effects. And I told him, no, I've been taking super supplements. So then he said, he was a good doctor because he had the heart to tell me, Asha, I'd really like to understand what these are. Because he looks at it in the waiting room and they're all devastated, singed and sorrowful and nauseous and tired. And here I was. You're coming, lying on the machine, taking my radiation and out in a jiffy. That apart, then the next step, I was recommended to take 5 years of daily oral chemotherapeutic medication, daily. At the same time, I was told I was not supposed to miss a single dose. I did it for 1 year. And then we called the doctor. We've done 1 year. And you know what he says? He says, you should have got back to me after 3 months because it's got some effects. You have to monitor your liver and all those functions, liver and kidney functions. And here I had absolutely no issues. So this is my story. Not just attitude, faith and hope, which is also my name, can keep you going if you're a victim of cancer. But the audacity to keep this, to nurse this lump. People ask me, how come you didn't take cognizance of it? How come you didn't take any action? I think that audacity came from the strength of the knowledge, because knowledge for me is not just power. Knowledge which I got from that book is health, was health. It came many years later. So I'd like to leave you all with one message. In today's polluted world where everything is compromised, right from your soil to your water to your air and to your food mostly, I'd like to leave you with the message of supplementation. It can actually do 3 things. If you have a genetic predisposition to any lifestyle disease, supplementation can actually delay the onset. What you should get at the age of 30, 40, you get it at your 80s, 90s. If the disease has already invaded your body, supplementation can actually retard or arrest the progression, which is probably what happened in my case. And finally, if you're forced to, you need to take therapy, the disease has invaded your body, then you can actually take the good of therapy and keep the side effects away. Mostly we hear, it's not cancer that actually kills, it's the inability to cope with the side effects of treatment. It very often is mentally and physically devastating, draining. So my message to you, ladies and gentlemen, is to leave you with what the statement credited to Hippocrates. He said, let food be thy medicine, and medicine thy food. And if food cannot be got from your normal sources in its pure form, get it from organic, reputed, nutrient-dense, effective, safe supplements. That's what I have realized, and it's given me back my life. Thank you for being a wonderful.